Welcome back to this week's episode of Get Mossed. This week we had a major trade go down in the league, and we'll be hearing from one of the participants in that trade, as well as recaps of last week like normal and projections for this week as normal. We will also be having our players of the week continue. We do have three big players of the week. Remember, it is not just the three highest performers throughout the league. It is three people who made a huge difference in their games. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. And welcome to the recaps. We're going to start off with Daddy's team taking on Widget. Daddy's team won by nearly 40 points here, carried by their two 33-point scorers in Tucker Kraft and Saquon Barkley. Didn't get much else outside of them. Did have a big week from Kayshon Boutte, who scored 16.5, but faces a huge blow, losing Cam Scatabo. Rest in peace, Scat. Had a dislocated ankle as well as a fractured tibia and ruptured ligament in his ankle. Should be back for next fantasy season completely healthy. Now let's go over to the other side here. It is Widget scoring 77.6 points. His only player that scored over 20 was Ladd McConkey, who was 20.8. Tajay Spears put up 17.2. Not much to report on for that team. But there is a player of the week in this matchup, Tucker Kraft, with his 33.3 fantasy points. He had 7 receptions for 143 yards and 2 total touchdowns. Huge game from Tucker Kraft, taking down Pittsburgh in prime time. Now, moving into our next matchup, it is Ricky Stanicki versus the Coblets. Ricky Stanicki continuing their run, sitting at 6-2 now, scoring 124 points to the Coblets 110.48. Ricky Stanicki, Jonathan Taylor, another monster week, 37.4 points. Outside of that, he had Bo Nix who put up 20. But that was really about it for his major point scores this week. Looking over at the other side, he did have Drake May have a really good week again, scoring 26.2. Buccaneers defense putting up 25 points. They did all they could this week to keep him in this matchup. Now, again, for the back-to-back week, Jonathan Taylor is a player of the week, putting up 153 rushing yards, 3 total touchdowns, and 21 receiving yards to add on top of that in a beatdown on Tennessee, winning 38-14. Continuing a great year from Jonathan Taylor. One of the most one-sided trades that we will see the entire year is that Jonathan Taylor for Brian Thomas Jr. trade we saw earlier this year. Now, moving into our next matchup, we have DeMardiak Arrest versus Diggs in a blanket. Winning by nearly 13-ish points here. Looking at the winner's team, moving to 5-3. 23 points from Josh Allen, 25 points from Rashee Rice in his second game back. It was a really quiet week from Christian McCaffrey. That did not matter to him. Everybody else stepped up. Jalen Waddle, 20.9 in a big win against Atlanta. And looking over at the losers team, we had Pat Mahomes scoring 23 on that Monday Night Football game. Travis Kelce putting up 22. His battery there did their job. Really needed more out of Bijan Robinson this week. Just couldn't get it going against that Miami defense. So, moving into our next match up, we have Coop Cup Clan versus Jennifer Aniston. Coop Cup Clan takes this one 121.68 to 108.06. Looking at the winner's team first, as usual, we have Jamar Chase putting up 21, playing very well with Joe Burrow. Javonte Williams putting up 18. Even with a Quentin Johnston dud, he still puts up 121 points this week. Tedero McMillan coming alive, scoring 17 in a blowout loss to Buffalo. And our third and last player of the week is Breece Hall. 32.86 fantasy points, had 133 yards on the ground, 2 rushing touchdowns, and let's not forget the passing touchdown to pretty much win the game for the Jets, getting their first win of the season in a 39-38 victory over Cincinnati. Now, looking over at the other side here, we have Jennifer Aniston, 108.06. Jalen Hurts did his thing with 25. DK Metcalf with 16.5. Gadsden with 18.7. But it was the rest of the guys let him down. Debo, 4.2. Falcons defense put up 0. I mean, it's a defense. It doesn't kill you if they don't do well. Really missed Ashton Genty this week with Nick Chubb and Rachaad White only putting up 8.9 and 8.1 respectively. So moving into our next matchup. This was the Tank Bowl. Who was going for last place here? It is Jalissa losing to Steelers of Joy, who finally gets his second win of the season with a score of 147.26 to 136.58. Looking over at Steelers of Joy, Derrick Henry, 19 points. Michael Pittman Jr., 23.5. Kamani Vidal, 19.7. We called that one on last week's show. Knew they had to run the ball. They did. And Chris Boswell with a huge 20-point kicker performance. That's what won him this week. Coming into that Monday Night Football game, that is what won him the week. That 20-point performance on Sunday Night Football kind of sealed it for him. Now moving over to the other side. This was Jalissa's best week so far. It just so happens her opponent put up 150 points. 25 from a quarterback, 25 from Chase Brown to finally getting it going a little bit. CeeDee Lamb put up 15, Odunze 18, Harold Fannin 18, 11 from a defense, 13 from a flex. It's not much else you can ask for if you're Jalissa. Just unfortunately let down by your defense. You can't give up 150 points there. Moving into our last matchup here of the week. It was our closest matchup of the week. We had Team McElhaney squeaking out the win against First Down Syndrome. This one also came down to Monday Night Football. But let's look at the winner's team first. Baker Mayfield only put up 4 points. It's what kept First Down Syndrome in this game. But then Achane with 20. James Cook with 33.6, keeping up his good season. Justin Jefferson only 14. Romeo Doubs 9. Jake Ferguson putting up 0 was huge to keep First Down Syndrome in this matchup. Looking over at the other side here, had CJ Stroud put up 21. Quinshon Judkins with the dud of 4.7. Did get an injury during that game. It is an AC sprain. He is considered day to day. Mecca only putting up 6. Still looks a little hindered by the hamstring, and Baker Mayfield just could not connect with him this week. Now, speaking about that Monday Night Football game, as earlier, it came down to Xavier Worthy needed 2.5 more points, or really 2.3 more points to get off this win for First Down Syndrome. Did not get it. McElhaney goes to 7-1, commanding lead over the league, and First Down Syndrome falls to 5-3, now in 6th place because he has lost that matchup. Now, we did have a big trade this week. This one was just accepted in the morning of this recording on October 29th, Wednesday. Steelers of Joy is trading away Brock Bowers, Kenneth Walker III, and Scary Terry for Omarion Hampton and Tucker Kraft. There's been a lot of talk around the league about how bad this trade was, and we agree. This trade is horrendous. Sources have told us that Steelers of Joy is the one that offered this trade. They might need to go see a mental health professional because this is downright atrocious. Horrible trade, in our opinion. Now, we did receive an exclusive video from the head coach of Daddy's team, Daniel Hampton. with his kind of thoughts on the trade. Let's go ahead and get to that.
Welcome to this introductory press conference for our newest team members of Daddy's team, Brock Bowers, Terry McLaurin, and Kenneth Walker. We're very happy that you are here to join this team. You know, a lot of people have been talking about how this trade went down, and it started in a coffee shop. Just a question of would you ever, and then that just kind of led to more discussions and things along that nature. And we just really thank. Really send out a thank you to uh, Nico Swearingen. Nick Swearingen, for being a great trade partner to allow, I think, both of our teams to be set up for short term and long term success. Um, so we are just very excited to have all these guys join the roster and integrate into our winning culture here in Daddy's team.
All right. Now that we've heard the voice of the head coach of Daddy's team, I'd like everybody in this league to let us know, what is your thoughts on this trade? Do you think it was ridiculous like I do? I'm pretty sure you do. Because I also have an exclusive screenshot from the text message exchanges between these two head coaches, where Steelers of Joy admits that they traded these players to ensure that he beats teams he needs to not stay on the bottom. This is breaking news, a scandal in the league. Do with that as you will. Will we see the commissioner step in? Who knows? Now, let's go ahead and get to the projections. All right. As normal with our projections, we do always start with the biggest lines and go into our closest matchups. First one is Coop Cup Clan versus Widget. Coop Cup Clan wins. So, going into our next one, we have Daddy's team versus Demardiac Arrest. As mentioned earlier, we did have a big trade, so these projections will change just a little bit once he does get his new players on the team. That being said, Demardiac Arrest still takes this one. Advantages in every position. He's on a roll. We don't see him slowing down. Moving into our next matchup, we have the first place team taking on Jennifer Aniston, Cam McElhaney. Again, this is pretty straightforward. Cam McElhaney's on a roll. He's on pace to just steamroll everybody with a fluke loss on his record so far. Now, again, like we say every week, this is fantasy football. Anything can happen. Anything can change. But we're going to agree with the projections. Cam McElhaney takes this win. Moving into the surprise team of the year so far for us, Ricky Stanicki taking on First Down Syndrome. First Down Syndrome does get Jahmyr Gibbs back this week, but they do lose Quinshon Judkins and Ibuka to bye. Looking at the other side, Ricky Stanicki still has Jonathan Taylor and Puka Nacua. He's back this week. Jonathan Taylor probably carries this team to another win. Ricky Stanicki, he gets this win. Moving into Jalissa versus Diggs in a Blanket. This one, it says 8-point difference. I think this one's going to be a little bit closer here. We did have the most ridiculous waiver wire pickup of all time, Brian Thomas Jr., recently, because Widget dropped him. Who knows why? We don't. So, that being said, I think with the new addition of a guy like Brian Thomas Jr., who has top 5 wide receiver potential any week, we saw it last year in his rookie year. Yeah, I think Diggs in a Blanket takes this win. Jalissa falls to 2-7. It's a rough season for Jalissa so far. And now for the Get Mossed Game of the Week. The Game of the Week. Steelers of Joy versus the Coblins. Who would have thought Steelers of Joy in a Game of the Week? Not us. We definitely wouldn't have thought of that 2 weeks ago. But sitting at 2-6 is a real opportunity here to really climb the rankings with the win here. 3-5 looks a lot better than 2-7. or sorry, 3-6 looks a lot better than 2-7. Um, but then again, we had that big trade, so he got rid of uh, Brock Bowers, Terry McLaurin, and K9. But he went ahead and adjusted the lineup for it. Still projected to win by 8 points this week. Um, so in the shocking development, Steelers Joy gets a win this week in our game of the week. Steelers Joy moves to 3-6. Goblins fall to 3-6. Steelers Joy could start climbing the rankings with some wins, but who knows? We might see some sanctions coming from the commish due to the possible alleged collusion. Now that is going to wrap up our projections for this week and wrap up our show. I really hope you guys enjoyed the show this week. We will see you next week.